This woman got the surprise of her lifetime when she received some bizarre news about a ring she owned. The jewel had been on her finger for over 30 years. To her knowledge, it was only worth $13, but she couldn't be more wrong, because when she looked closer, she realized she was a millionaire. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Confused, Ethel stared at the picture. Where did this come from? She thought. She managed to avert her gaze from the woman and checked out the box the picture came from. It didn't take long for her to realize this box belonged to her husband, but she had never seen any of the stuff before. With that in mind, she took the box out of the attic so she could take a better look at what it contained. With each picture and old document she took out, she became more confused. Not only had Ethel never seen any of this, but she never heard her husband speak of it either. Her confusion rose to its peak when she came across more pictures with people in it. This time, however, it wasn't just one person. This the ring in the same picture. The brother explained there were a few dozen family rings, given from generation to generation, combined with the story of their ancestors. According to the story, their ancestors came here to start a new life and prospered. They hid their wealth somewhere, which was only accessible to someone with a ring. It's an old family legend, and I think my brother never believed in it. That's probably why he never mentioned any of it. Ethel just nodded in response. She was still trying to process the remarkable story she had just heard. She suddenly looked up, gazing at her brother-in-law. "Does this mean," she stammered, "I believe he left it in the attic for me to find, so I would try and look for the family legend," Ethel said. She thanked her brother-in-law and went back home, thus starting her search for the family treasure and proving the legend was true, not sure where it would lead her. Back home, Ethel made her way up the stairs to check the attic. She had to make sure she had everything. Once she was convinced, she spread out all of the contents of the box on the table and started sorting. There were pictures, notes, and all kinds of old documents. While looking at the documents and notes, Ethel started to slowly realize she bit off more than she could chew. She had no idea where to start and, frankly, had no idea what to do. She needed help. But who could help her? Then she thought of the perfect person. "I came across all this when cleaning the attic," Ethel said while putting the box on the counter. "Take a look." Harry eagerly opened the box and was baffled about what he found inside. One by one, he took the pictures and documents out, and each time his eyes grew larger. "This looks like documentation about the Franklin legend." "This was in your attic?" Harry asked in amazement. Ethel was surprised about what he said. "The Franklin legend? As in, my husband, Edward Franklin?" The shop owner almost jumped in excitement when he heard her husband's name was the same as the legend. "So you know about the legend?" Ethel asked. She was excited as she realized she had come to the right place. "Well, of course," Harry replied. According to him, every historian needed to know the ins and outs of their hometown. This included the Franklin legend. Ethel wondered if there was any truth to it. Once she made sure she wasn't dreaming, Ethel was ready to take the next step. Together, they started looking through the documents. "Look at the names or places the documents are from," Harry said when he noticed the hesitation of Ethel. They searched and searched until finally she noticed something useful. A document with a red stamp on it caught Ethel's eye. "This has to be useful," she said while giving it to Harry. He nodded fiercely as he explained it was a very old bank statement. They approached the old building and went inside. There was a clerk standing behind a counter welcoming them to the bank. "We would like to know what this document means," Ethel said while handing it over. The clerk inspected the document and got back to them with good and bad news. "Good news first, please," Ethel said. The clerk explained there was a vault belonging to the document that was still operational to this day. Harry and Ethel looked at each other. "So what is the bad news?" Harry asked. It turned out the vault needed a key to be opened, and they were empty-handed. "A key," Ethel replied. They hadn't seen a key in the box, and she didn't remember seeing it anywhere at home either. Neither her brother-in-law nor Harry mentioned a key before. Did they miss something? Then she remembered. Although he never mentioned a key, Her brother-in-law did mention something else. They breathlessly watched how the clerk fit the ring perfectly into a hole in the vault and then entered a code. They heard the lock pop and the vault rattled as he opened the door. "Talk about an anti-climax," Harry said as they looked inside the vault. "Not so fast," Ethel said. At first, it looked like there was just a single piece of paper inside the vault. Maybe the treasure was a deed to a massive mansion with vineyards or a very profitable company. But when Ethel looked at the paper, her heart stopped. "The legend is real!" she yelled cheerfully while giving it to Harry. He looked at the piece of paper she had given him. When he realized what he was holding, he looked at Ethel. "This is amazing!" he exclaimed. "This map will guide us to the treasure." They had thought their search was over at the bank, but it appeared to be just the beginning. In a hurry, they went back to the shop. "We can cross-reference the map with other maps I have," Harry said excitedly. But once he laid all of his maps on the table, one thing became blatantly obvious. Harry shrugged as he told her he didn't know. Their one lead was the river the building was built next to. "Of course, it's the Franklin's Range," as Ethel pointed at a map. Harry looked at where Ethel was pointing at, saw it too. Next to the river, a place was labeled Franklin's Range. It was a bit out of town, so they had to drive for a while, but eventually they arrived at the location. Or so the map said they were. But when they stopped and got out of the car, they didn't see anything. Just a plain sandy landscape with a couple of plants and trees. Confused, they double-checked everything. Was this the right location? Did they take a wrong turn? Did she have to map upside down? Unfortunately, they came to the same conclusion. They were at the correct location. "So the legend is fake after all," Harry sighed. "No, it's not," Ethel said while hurrying to the car. Holding the pictures gave Ethel an idea. They had a bunch of pictures that they could use to figure out where the buildings would have been. With the help of the pictures, they could use the map and find the location of the treasure. Both were unaware of how close they were. It seemed to work pretty well. They had a lot of pictures, so they could paint a clear picture of how the location used to look with buildings. Step by step, they got closer to the location marked on the map. "Stop!" Harry yelled suddenly. "This is it! We're here!" There they stood in the middle of a barren and sandy field. "This is where the building that is marked used to be," Mark said. "Should we dig?" he suggested. "Come over here!" she yelled, still wiping away the sand. Harry joined, and soon after, they found something. In the corner of what appeared to have been a floor was a trapdoor. A trapdoor hidden in a building on the Franklin Range. "This has to be it," he said as Ethel opened it. They gasped as soon as the door was open. Underneath was an underground chamber filled with chests. Those chests were filled with all kinds of jewelry and old coins. "This must be a fortune!" Ethel exclaimed. It took some time, but they managed to get everything in the car and drove away. As it turned out, it was worth a fortune, and Ethel shared everything with her in-laws. It was her way of rekindling the relationship they once had. It would have made her husband very happy. But she didn't forget Harry, of course. Although he declined multiple times, he got some. Tell us what you think about this story and share it with your friends. It might inspire them and brighten their day.